I'll put you a little bit on the hot seat, only because it's a burning issue, certainly in the medical sciences. The International Committee of Medical Journal Editors, the ICMG, came out with a series of guidelines that defines a lot of things, but tries to define what is an author or who should be an author of a paper. But the real overreaching aspect of the ICMG guidelines is pure disclosure of conflicts of interest, and who worked on the paper and whether they deserve authorship or whether they simply deserve acknowledgement. Do you, not putting your journals on the spot, but do you have any beliefs as to how much disclosure should there be with respect to the statistician, editorial support, and acknowledgements, things of that nature? Yeah. And it's not, I'll frame this in saying, although ICMG is in with respect to medical and clinical journals, it is not necessarily applicable in all sectors of journals. Although as guidelines reach, it tends to lead to policy and lead to trends in the industry. Yeah. And so I'm sure that these similar things are being talked across many sectors.
Yeah, as editors, we talk about these a lot. And authorship has always been a big issue. Often we don't know, and that's part of the problem. So if there's anything, you're going to see more and more of in journals asking authors to be explicit, either in the cover letter or in the manuscript itself, in the footnotes to the byline of the authors, what each one did or didn't do. I have strong feelings that the only people who should be authors are those that significantly contributed to the work, to design of the study, to carrying out the study, to writing up the study and analyzing the results, etc. Obviously, in complex fields these days, one can't do everything, and certainly in complex areas, we're going to have subspecialists, and therefore they're going to be very qualified in some areas of the manuscript and know nothing about another area, and that's fair enough. But in general, someone who just provided a germ of an idea, or someone who carried out the field work for one under direction, shouldn't be an author. They should be acknowledged. We should thank them for what they contributed to the study, but they likely wouldn't warrant authorship. Mm-hmm. And I'm not in the medical area, and only a couple of our journals overlap into the medical area, so we don't find quite those same problems with financial conflicts of interest. Mm-hmm. But we're seeing more and more of that, and worry and concern, legitimate concern about where the authors got funding for the study. Does somebody have something that they're trying to gain, mm-hmm. whether it's a drug company, whether it's
conflicts of interest, competing interests,
that's right.
Things of that nature.
Right.
And I'll throw into the mix that as journals become more and more electronic, everything is keyword searchable. Yeah. And one of the main reasons for acknowledging many people who are associated with your paper is that these things, although they're tucked in at the end of the paper in acknowledgements, they are still keyword searchable.
That's right.
And so the acknowledgements are almost as visible in many regards as authorship.
Yes.
And even though you have a colleague who's not an author in the paper but contributed in some significant way to the paper, eventually down the road, 5-10 years from now, these things, as this person's career increases, the recognition in this paper is actually very important because it may have predated their actual own authorship on their own papers, and this adds to their career.
Right.
So it is important to include these things. And more now than before, just simply because of the electronification of these papers.
That's right. And I think we have moral obligation, responsibility to make sure that people are credited with the work they did, people make sure that they get the recognition that they deserve for the work that they did.